I hooked up with my friend's boyfriend to get back at her for sleeping with my boyfriend.
Ooh, the tea is spicy.
I hooked up with a guy instead of paying for a hotel.
I mean, wise.
Smart. We could all learn a thing or two. Welcome back to Delve Deck Stories. Today we are reading some not my proudest moment stories. Let's get into it. Our first story is from Anonymous. Ooh, okay. And it's what's your not my proudest moment story from our venting deck. I made a really embarrassing scene confronting my ex-boyfriend at a bar. We've all been there.
Mm-hmm. Me included, no.
Yeah. I mean, sure.
Hey, why not?
Why not? I was in my mid-20s when I met Rob online. We bonded over a shared love of indie music and old movies and hit it off immediately. That's such a mid-20s. You're like, we like the same music. Let's get married.
Mm-hmm. You're like, just these 3 boxes are checked.
Yeah.
Good enough for me.
It basically felt like love at first sight, and within a few weeks of meeting, we were hanging out almost every night and weekend. We dated a few months and talked about a future together. He introduced me to his family. We talked every day. We were both crazy about each other, or so I thought. I'd spent the night at his house on a Saturday, and that night, everything was as fairy tale magical as usual. But the next day, it was like he was a totally different person. I had plans with friends the next morning, and he seemed irritable, so I left and told him I'd call him later. When I called him that night, he didn't pick up. I left a message asking if things were okay, but he didn't call back. I was so confused. Just some personality change.
Body snatcher?
Maybe
Spy?
maybe.
I don't know.
He's a secret spy, and he's suddenly
Look, when
was
you
done
really
with
like
his...
someone, yeah, who knows? I mean, like, when you really like someone, you will go very far into like, well, maybe they blah, 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 like, until the point of which, like, they just don't like you anymore, right? That's obviously, that's the last thing you'll come on to, and then before that, you'll be like, maybe they're traveling, maybe they had to go somewhere for work, maybe something happened with their family, maybe they lost their phone, like, you'll come up with every excuse possible just to justify them still being in love with you, but just not communicating.
But it's like crazy to suddenly change your mind.
Oh yeah,
Like,
I mean,
that,
the first thing I would be like, oh,
sudden,
do you have some sort of like
really weird?
Yeah, I would think that there would be a personality kind of
a body snatcher
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is.
I'd been through breakups before, and usually there's a reason, but this was completely out of the blue. He went from telling me how much he loves me and wants to marry me to totally ignoring me within about 12 hours for no clear reason. He showed up at my house a few days later unannounced after ignoring me for days and said, "I'm sorry, but I'm not in love with you anymore. I want to break up. I just came to return some stuff you left at my place."
This is like the kind of moment in which, in a rom-com, the parent comes over and is like, I want you to stop dating my daughter. Like, you know, that kind of like threat that happens. And then they show up and it's like night and day. And they're like, I can't date you anymore. We can't do anything.
Yeah, this
I don't
is,
know. Whenever I feel like there's a sudden shift.
coded.
Yeah. To me, that's what it feels like.
Okay, so maybe it was your dad's fault.
Yeah.
I was like, what happened? Can you at least tell me what prompted this change? He said he just wasn't feeling the connection and left. Yeah, I mean, if this were a rom-com, but my guess is it's not.
Because life is never a rom-com. It just seems like there's some sort of like outside force being like, don't ever come near her again.
Yeah.
I could be totally wrong, but...
Body snatcher.
Or body snatcher. I just feel like there's got to be some explanation.
Yeah.
I hope.
You're such a romantic. I was devastated. Looking back, it was really the abruptness of his change in attitude that messed me up so much, but I was a wreck about it. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I was crying all the time, I could barely do my job. Yeah, breakups suck. I started trying to pick up the pieces and move on. I hit the gym, went out with friends, flirted with people, etc. Then Rob popped back up out of nowhere and told me he'd made a mistake and wanted to give things another try. Oh, Gabe, are you getting your fairy tale ending?
Oh, my heart is fluttering.
I know it was stupid, but I believed him and thought we were getting back together. Then he ghosted me again.
Oh, man, this. This is like this on again, off again. I'm just tearing me apart right now.
Yeah. The whiplash of on again, off again behavior from him was making me extra crazy. He did this 2 more times over the ensuing months before finally ghosting again for good.
Nah, dude.
Yeah, no, this dude just sucks.
He's got to go.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Gabe. You're not getting... I don't think you're getting the ending you wanted.
No, I'm not. You know, Harry was thinking like, they broke up. He came to his senses. He came back. She forgave him. And now they're happily ever after.
Yeah. I don't think that would fit the theme of the stories.
Here I am hoping for a left turn.
This all dragged out the breakup recovery much longer than you'd expect for a relationship that barely lasted 3 months. Yeah, you're like just getting toyed with.
I mean, also 3 months, that young love, you're like, oh, we like the same music. We like the same old time movies.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I'm going to marry you.
Yeah.
And then in that time period of like meeting family, whatnot, just like through just a roller coaster of emotions in such a short period of time.
Yeah, it's not a nice thing to do. I ran into Rob at a bar in my neighborhood a few weeks after the last ghosting, and there he was having a great time with his buddies like nothing had happened. I saw red. At this point, I just wanted to scream at him, and since I was a few drinks in, I felt emboldened to do so.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah. Make a scene.
Yeah, good for you. Cause it. Why not?
Yeah. It's
this guy.
Embarrass him.
Yeah. It definitely won't embarrass you. It'll embarrass him.
Look, a few drinks in, you forget about the whole thing the next day. All good.
I was so overcome with rage that I marched up to the table where he was sitting with his friends, and I was like, oh, so you're just out having fun like nothing happened? Why did you do that to me? Why did you break up with me with no explanation? Why did you keep popping back up asking for another chance if you didn't want to get back together? What is wrong with you? Was this all some big joke for you? I was loudly shouting at him, and people were staring at me, including him and all of his friends, but I couldn't stop myself. I think you were in the right.
I mean, you just got to let that go. Just like, boom, just like let it all out.
I understand. This is something I would definitely do, and then I would feel embarrassed the next day. But like,
yeah, but
honestly,
how? See, like in this instance of like you go to this like neighborhood bar. Okay, so you don't like go there for like a month or so. No one is ever gonna remember who you are. You're gonna show up and you're like, oh, what can I get you? No one's gonna like
fine.
Double take and be like, there's that girl that totally blew up on that dude.
We've all been there, and honestly, if I saw this happening in public, I'd be like, good for her.
He deserved it. And based on the story, he deserved it.
He did. It truly felt like an out-of-body experience screaming at him and making a scene. He stared at me like I'm the crazy one and said nothing the entire time while I yelled at him. His total lack of reaction pissed me off even more, and I just kept going. I wanted to hit him, throw things at him. He was looking at me like he'd never seen me before in his life, and it just made me angrier. I think it was a body snatcher situation.
Yeah. Like, how do you not react or respond to someone that you said that you wanted to marry and that you loved and you spent all this time with and it was magical and you met each other's families, this and that? To just not have any response when someone is publicly shaming you, I would be like, I
would be like, oh, I'm leaving now.
Yeah. Or at least like show something on your face and be like, oh, I'm so uncomfortable right now. Like I did not.
Just be like,
yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah. So body snatcher,
Definitely.
We're bringing it back.
Dodged a bullet.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, one of my friends came up behind me and was like, let's just go, and grabbed my arm and started leading me out of the bar. She turned to Rob and said, you're a real asshole. I hope you never find happiness. Which felt a bit better to have someone else mad at him with me.
And at that moment, a hex was put on him.
Yeah, he's been cursed.
Mm-hmm.
I know looking back, I dodged a bullet. You did. The guy truly sucked, and I ended up meeting my now husband later that year. No idea what ended up happening to Rob, but I hope he's miserable somewhere. Probably because his body was snatched.
Mm-hmm. But also, in a way, I did get my happy ending.
Aww.
She found her husband, and that's love, and this other guy, Rob, can go I don't know.
Eat
Fucking
rocks.
He could go eat
'em.
rocks. Rob can just go, you know?
All right. That was a happy ending. Our next story comes from Blair, and it's What's Your Not My Proudest Moment story from the venting deck. I hooked up with my friend's boyfriend to get back at her for sleeping with my boyfriend.
Ooh, the tea is spicy.
That's some drama. We'll see. We'll see how we feel about this one. I mean,
I'm invested.
You're invested?
Oh, yeah.
Your team sleep with your friend's boyfriend to get back at them?
I mean, we'll
Maybe.
see. I'm going to assume that
Everyone
her friend,
deserved it.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's terrible in the situation, probably.
I met Madison through a class at college. She seemed to know everyone and get invited to everything, so initially I was excited to be part of her circle. I also met my boyfriend Colin through her because he was friends with her boyfriend Sean. The four of us used to hang out all the time. Madison was always kind of flirty with Colin, but she was the type of person who flirted with everyone, so I didn't think much of it. I thought we were all just friends. Big mistake.
Huge mistake.
Fast forward to a party at Sean's fraternity. First mistake right there.
Nuh-uh. There's drinks. There's Jello shots. There's beer pong. There's body shots.
Frat guys.
Yeah.
Just do. On principle, especially while they're actively in the fraternity.
Yeah.
If they've learned the error of their ways later in life, I suppose it's fine. Were you in a frat?
Hell no.
All right. Wanted to make sure I wasn't.
I'm a normie.
Theater kid energy.
I'm so cool.
Same. Okay. All four of us were there and drinking, but after a few hours, I lost track of Madison and Colin. I figured they were around, but as it got late, I started to look for them because I wanted to go home. I tried to ask Sean if he'd seen them, but he was passed out drunk on the couch and I could not wake him up. I started looking around the house for them since Colin was my ride home. I feel like that's a bad idea. We're all drinking. Don't do that.
Yep.
And found him in bed with Madison in an upstairs bedroom. Not good. I was so pissed. I was like, what the f***? You two are cheating together? I wonder if this was the first time or a continued thing.
It could have been one of those moments where they're like, oh man, those like underlying feelings. And now that we've gotten some beer and other things in our system, we're ready to go.
Totally.
But yeah, it could have certainly happened other times,
Yeah.
Hooking up in the library, in the stacks,
Like
but
the cool kids
yeah,
do.
like the cool kids hanging, in the basement. I could definitely see this as not the first time.
Yeah. Colin was all, Blair, sorry.
I thought you were. I thought she was
my
you.
mistake. I slammed the door and stormed out. Colin tried to come after me, but I was not interested. I made up my mind right then and there that I was done with him. I liked him a lot, but sleeping with my friend was a deal breaker. Plus, he was friends with Sean, so he'd been horrible to me and his own friend. She had too. Yeah, everybody, No one's good in this situation. Okay. I took an Uber home, stewing the entire time. I sent a text to Sean telling him I needed to talk to him urgently and to call me in the morning. I was sure Madison and Colin would try to get to him first and do damage control, but I was going to make sure he knew what I saw.
Yeah, also, how do you do damage control on that? You're like, oh, no, we didn't have sex.
She's crazy and making it up?
It was so hot. We just had to lay down in bed together without our clothes on. We didn't do anything. Totally normal. Not cheating.
Just some platonic, naked, laying next to each other.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Next morning, I woke up hungover and miserable, not having slept well. No word from Sean, so I called him. I needed to make sure he knew what happened. He picked up groggily and was like, Blair?
Come on over.
Yeah. Have you talked to Colin or Madison yet today? I asked angrily. Him, no. Why? Me, because last night at your party, I found them in bed together. Him, what? Is this a joke? Me, no. I wish it was a joke. They are cheating on both of us. I started crying. It was more angry tears than sad. I just felt so betrayed. I asked him if he was going to break up with her. He said he didn't know, that he wanted to talk to her. I hung up.
I mean, I get it, right? Like, you're not going to
you're
make a
like, am I
decision.
going to believe
Yeah, right.
this, I guess.
Yeah.
But you should believe women.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I would go into the conversation and be like, okay, spidey sense is tingling.
Yeah.
But I would obviously be skeptical, but like, okay, that's a funny joke. Like, what's going on? You know? I would want to know, and obviously we'll find out in this conversation, but, she's going to be like, we didn't sleep together. Or I thought it was, or it's the classic, I thought it was you. I was so drunk. Oh my God. You're the same.
Is that a classic thing? That's an insane thing to say.
I feel like that's what people do in movies.
If you have to look really similar to your friend.
We don't know what they look like.
That's a good point.
Turns out they were twins.
Sean called me later that evening and told me he talked to Madison and she admitted to doing it, but said it was just a one-time drunken mistake and she wasn't going to do it again.
One time drunken mistake. We've all heard that before.
I asked if he was breaking up with her. He said he was thinking about it. I asked him if he wanted to hang out. He said yes, and we met up at a pub off campus.
Nice.
All right, here we go. Initially, our hangout was just a bitch session about all the ways Madison and Colin suck, and Sean moping about whether he should give her another chance. I had already told him I was done with both of them. Cheating was bad enough, but doing it with friends was so much worse. I was like, we should hook up just to get back at them. He seemed a little cheered up at this thought and was like, are you serious? I said, I don't know, kind of. He's like, okay.
I mean, if you're a dude and there's another, attractive female that's like, so you want to get back at them having sex? What dude's not going to be like, oh, yeah, no. No dude's going to say that. He's going to be like, yeah, right. No, you, yeah, okay, let's do it, yeah. I mean, if you want it, of course.
You're the one who said it.
It's your idea.
Invited him back to my apartment and he spent the night and we fooled around. In the moment, it felt so spiteful and transgressive, but the next day, I just felt worse. Yeah.
You can't win them all.
Hooking up with Sean hadn't made me any less pissed off at Colin and Madison, and now I didn't really even want to stay friends with Sean either. He told me he had decided to break up with her and wanted to know if I wanted to keep hanging out with him.
The boy likes what he tastes.
He's like, oh, I could have another. He's like, replacement.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's like,
easy.
No way is this at all dangerous to get into a relationship with someone who also got cheated on by the other person that they were dating.
Yeah.
This isn't going to end up badly, right? It will.
It will.
Yeah. If the commonality between you two, like the thing that brings you together is your hatred for the other person you were dating because of cheating, like also... Oh, Mom, Dad, how did you meet? Well, funny story. Our other partners cheated on each other, so we decided to cheat on them, even though we were already kind of broken up. And that's how you came along, It's like...
I bet somebody has that story.
100%. I would love to hear it. If anyone watching has that story, please
Tell
send
us
it
about
in.
it. How's it going?
Yeah. You good? How are the kids?
Asked if I wanted to keep hanging out with him, but I felt like I just needed to be alone and away from that whole friend group, so I declined. Good.
Smart.
I blocked Madison and Colin on my phone and social media and stopped talking to the whole friend group. Colin and Madison both tried to reach out to me a few times, but I was so done with them after their behavior. No idea if Sean told Madison he fooled around with me. It was all a big mistake and not something I would do again. Sounds like a messy situation, but I don't know. I guess I don't blame her.
I also wouldn't be surprised if Sean came back and was like, oh yeah, well I had sex with your friend. Like I could see him doing that.
Yeah.
Not that she would, that she would find out about him saying that because obviously blocked, this other girl on all the social media and phone and stuff. But I could certainly see the guy being like, well, you know what? I don't need you because I was able to, whatever, blah, 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 do this. I could easily see him coming back and be like, well, I got you back.
Yes. I think I would do that.
Yeah. I would certainly be like...
I would want them to know.
Be like, just so you know, I had sex with your friend.
Yeah, I'd be like, right back at you.
Bing, bing. We're both terrible people.
Our next story is from Alyssa, and it is What's Your Not My Proudest Moment story from the venting deck. I hooked up with a guy instead of paying for a hotel.
I mean... wise.
Smart. We can all learn a thing or two.
I mean, save money and have a little fun.
Yeah.
Who said you can't have both?
When I was 23, I went to grad school in another state. At the time, I had been dating this guy for about a year. We honestly had some issues and the relationship was rocky, but we still decided to try long distance.
Already sounds like there's a red flag in this story. We'll find out, but I'm not
not going to end well?
I don't think it's going to end well. I mean, clearly because of how the story started, but the fact that you're long distance, it's already rocky, makes me think.
Maybe not going to work out.
Yeah.
This was a huge mistake. All right, there we go.
Boom.
We had issues living in the same town, so adding an 8-hour drive between us didn't make things better.
8 hours?
Yeah.
That's
very long. That's a flight. But I guess, you're hooking up with somebody instead of paying for a hotel, so you're probably not buying a plane ticket either. Hooking up with people for plane tickets.
That's a whole new market.
The stress of this was really starting to wear on me, especially since I was so busy with school. But I kept trying to make it work because despite all of our arguments, I really did like him. Did you like the same music?
You like the old time movies? Oh, you like Fall Out Boy 2, Blink-182? Sold.
No one else does.
Yeah.
After I had been in school for about a month and a half, I could feel him starting to pull away from me. I was in denial that things needed to end and decided to surprise him with a visit.
This never ends well. Whenever somebody shows up, it's like
Don't surprise people.
9 times out of 10, whenever someone shows up at the doorstep and is like, hey, sweetie, I surprised you. And they're like, whoa, what are you doing here? It's always, again, if we could just learn from the movies, you would learn.
Don't do this.
He opens the door, right? Because the guy, like, at college, opens the door, and then he's like, oh my God, hey, honey, what are you doing? And then she's like, oh, I'm here to surprise you. And then you hear someone in the background go, hey, is that the food that we ordered? And then the girlfriend's like, what's this? And then, boom, whole scene, storms off, cuts her hair, reinvents herself.
Yeah. All right.
I watch a lot of movies.
I thought it would be really romantic and sexy if I showed up at his doorstep wearing a robe and lingerie. So I went shopping and got myself something I knew he'd love. I had a class Friday morning and then was planning on making the drive out to him, which again was about 8 hours. It was a long drive, but the thrill of surprising him made it go by quickly. I ended up getting to his place at around 9 p.m. I parked outside, changed my clothes in the car, strutted up to his front door, and rang the doorbell. Here we go. Here we go.
Saying, man, it's never good.
Never good.
Surprising someone, never good idea.
There was no response, which I thought was weird. We had been texting that day, and he told me he didn't have any plans that night.
Yeah, okay, whatever. Whatever you say, dude.
I tried knocking and ringing the doorbell again, and finally I heard someone approaching the door, a pause, and then my boyfriend say, oh, followed by more sounds.
Can't say I didn't warn you.
People need Gabes in their life to tell them not to do these things.
Just a little angel or devil on your shoulder.
Don't surprise him. No surprises. At this point, I'm really annoyed and suspicious, so I start banging on the door. My boyfriend finally opens the door and is like, Alyssa, what are you doing here? I'm super annoyed, so I'm like, I was going to surprise you with this and open my robe, but it kind of seems like you might have someone over. He starts being like, what are you talking about? Why would you come here without telling me? That's crazy.
Yep, see? Tries to put it on there. He's gaslighting and blaming the girl. You're so crazy. Why would you show up here?
He's acting really suspicious at this point, so I just start yelling, who is in here? And push past him. Again, in a robe with nothing but a skimpy black bra and underwear on. To her credit, the woman he was with didn't hide for long. She quickly came out of his room and was like, I'm so sorry, he didn't tell me he had a girlfriend. I'm just going to leave now. I guess that's nice.
Yeah. I mean, you can't blame her. She didn't know. So it's like, she's like, I'm getting away from whatever this situation is about to become. Smart.
So now she's gone and my boyfriend and I are in a huge fight. He was trying to blame everything on me for coming over unannounced, even though he was the one cheating. This dude sucks.
Yeah, man. Gotta go.
Finally, I was like, this is over. I'm done with this conversation. Don't contact me ever again. And I stormed back to my car and started to drive. I was crying and screaming and cursing his name, but after about half an hour of driving, I realized, oh, I have an 8-hour drive ahead of me, and it's almost 11 p.m. now. So now I'm freaking out and hating myself for making such a stupid decision. I knew I couldn't drive home. First of all, I was in a horrible headspace. And also, I had literally just drove 8 hours. I wasn't about to do that again. I pulled over and started looking for hotels nearby. At this time, I was a very broke student, and most of the hotels were at least $100 per night. Also, everyone I knew who used to live in town had graduated and left. Now, as an adult, I would pay for a hotel in a heartbeat, but at the time, I was like, there has to be another way. As I sat in my car, super annoyed and sad and angry, I realized I was even more pissed off that I bought this lingerie for him, and no one was even going to see it. Or were they?
Ooh.
I feel like you could also sleep in your car, but maybe that's sketchy. I guess you don't really know. I guess it depends on where
I don't
you
know.
are.
Again, I feel like in movies, what happens is a cop shows up and goes, tap, 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 you can't sleep here. And they're like, oh, okay.
Or a murderer with a hook.
Oh my God. Not that. Okay. There are some things I'll believe and other things I won't.
Partially out of desperation for somewhere to stay and partially out of hatred for my ex, I re-downloaded Tinder. The familiar screen popped up and I started to swipe right on pretty much every guy. Within a few minutes, I had some matches, and a few minutes later, I had a date.
Boom.
I put the clothes I was wearing before over the lingerie and headed to a bar to meet up with a man whose name I honestly don't remember.
And you know what? You don't need to.
No, we had a fun night and I went home with him. When he saw the lingerie, he was like, wow, you really wanted to get with me tonight, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. This was definitely for you, buddy.
All for you. Not
This
anyone
guy was
else.
like, wow, my profile's good.
Damn.
The next morning, I snuck out of his house, walked back to my car, and drove 8 hours home. I still feel kind of bad about it because I never told him why I really met up with him that night and ghosted him afterwards. Definitely not my proudest moment. Yeah, I get it, but like also it's Tinder. We all know what Tinder is.
Yeah.
If you hook up with somebody on the first date off of Tinder, like maybe it works out, and that I'm sure it has for some people, but also like you knew what this was.
Yeah, and also, you know, she's obviously in some range of 6 to 8 hours away from her home at this point, so she's never going to be back in that town.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like, look, you need a roof over your head and a warm bed to sleep in. Do it.
Yeah.
And hopefully that guy paid for the drinks and the meal or whatever they had, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, oh, do you want to split this? And she's like, I'll get the next round. And then she's like, you know what? How about we go back to your place?
Our final story comes from Erica. It's What's Your Not My Proudest Moment story from the Venting Deck. And she has a story about a babysitting job that went so poorly, she had to call her mom for help. When I was 15, I was asked to babysit for a family who lived a few blocks away from us. My mom worked with the dad, and when he told her they were looking for a babysitter, she said I babysat all the time and would love to do it. I had stayed at home with my 2 younger sisters before, so this wasn't totally wrong. Also, my parents had been encouraging me to get a job soon anyway, so I figured, why not? This should be easy. Their kid was this 7-year-old boy named Jordan. When I went over to their house, the parents let me know they were going to dinner and would probably be gone for about 3 hours. They told me that Jordan was a little shy and he also wasn't supposed to watch too much TV or play too many video games. But he did have some books to read and other activities that he loved, so it shouldn't be an issue. Great.
There's going to be an issue.
I think there might be an issue.
Something tells me it's going to go bad.
I said my goodbyes and shut the door. When I turned around, Jordan is staring at me. I want chicken nuggets, he demands.
This kid's, I swear, okay. This kid's going to end up being like the Antichrist.
Yeah. I love it. Like, parents are like, he's such a little sweetheart. And, give me chicken nuggets.
Eyes glowing red.
Yeah.
Mouth spewing black tar. You know, I feel this is coming.
Oh, sure. I can make you some chicken nuggets. So I go to the kitchen and look in the freezer. No chicken nuggets to be found. Sorry, there aren't any chicken nuggets. Do you want something else? I asked. No, he screamed. I want chicken nuggets, and threw himself on the floor and started crying.
He's going to come back with a dead chicken.
Oh, God, he just starts murdering chickens.
He's like, cook it.
I remember thinking, wow, for a shy kid, you sure didn't miss a beat demanding stuff from me. They're always like so sweet to the parents and then like monsters to the babysitter.
It's the same thing with like teacher and substitute teacher. Yes. They're like, oh man, I can totally push this person over. That's what it is.
Yeah, we were pretty bad to some subs.
Oops.
Sorry. Since I had never dealt with a situation like this, I got down next to him and was like, I'm so sorry. Please don't cry. I can make you something else. None of this was helping. He just kept on screaming. Finally, I thought maybe a different tactic will work. So I was like, hey, what about playing a game? Is there a game or something you would want to play? He stops crying and looks up at me from the ground. Xbox? He asks. Oh, well, your parents said, I started to say, but tears began streaming down his face again, so I was quickly like, sure, Xbox, let's do it.
Okay, I'm going to correct it. He's not the Antichrist. This kid's like the gremlin. You know, you're not supposed to feed it or get it wet or anything. This is the situation. You give him Xbox, they're like, please do not let him play games.
Yeah, the parents are like, don't let him touch a controller. He'll lose his mind.
Just transforms into this ugly creature that just destroys everything.
Jordan jumps up and runs to the living room and starts setting up the Xbox like he'd done this a million times. I didn't really play video games, so I wasn't sure what to expect, but assumed he'd want to play some sort of kids game. Instead, he boots up Halo, which I was familiar with and knew probably wasn't kid appropriate because a lot of my guy friends played it. Yeah.
The only thing I remember from Halo is just like you kill someone and then you do the humping squat,
yeah. I just know that it's a shooting game.
Yeah.
Do you play this a lot? I asked hesitantly. No, he responded. My dad plays it. Oh, okay. Maybe we should play a different game? He turns and screams at the top of his lungs. No, I want to play this game. Cool, great, whatever. Please just stop screaming.
She, unfortunately showed a slight sign of weakness during the chicken nugget phase.
Yeah.
And this kid was like, I know exactly what I can do.
Everything I want tonight. He starts playing Halo, and I was honestly shocked how good he seemed to be at it. As he's playing, he's just screaming, die, die, die at the screen. I just kept thinking, thank God his parents won't be home for a bit. So for about half an hour, I just watched this kid shooting people and screaming, die. And finally, I was like, this is kind of creeping me out. So I hesitantly was like, hey, are you hungry? I think I saw a frozen pizza I could make. And then we can play a different game? Big mistake. Jordan screams at the top of his lungs, throws the controller across the room, and screams, no pizza, no, stop it, shut up. Okay, sorry. Then he just keeps screaming, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you.
Yep, we've all been there.
You've been this kid.
This
is last week.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get to play the video game all night and didn't get my chicken nuggets. Dino nuggets. But the first thing that came to mind when he threw the controller was like, oh, the controller broke. The dad's going to find out.
Oh,
and,
break the TV screen.
Oh, yeah, that's another one. Oh, my God.
Could have been worse.
Kids, they just don't know how to control their emotions.
Yeah. I was trying to calm him down, but had no idea what to do and was not prepared to deal with this sort of behavior. I had been in arguments with my sisters before, but this was next level, and I just met this kid. I was like, please stop yelling, please stop. The kid is throwing a full-on tantrum at this point, throwing pillows off the couch and throwing himself on the ground. I was so freaked out, and finally I couldn't take it anymore. I ran to the kitchen, picked up the phone, and called my mom crying. I was like, I'm so sorry, I don't know what to do. He keeps screaming at me. Please come help me. I can't do this. My mom was luckily sympathetic and came over immediately. The presence of an adult instantly changed this kid's behavior.
Bruh.
Yeah. He knew what he could get away with. He tested the boundaries with the chicken nuggets, and once he knew...
She was like, oh, and also it's like, he knew there weren't any chicken nuggets. You know? He knows.
Yeah.
He was like, I know there's none there. I'm going to ask for it. She's going to say there's not there. I'm going to get a fit. She's going to try to please me. I'm going to get to play video games. And from there... We're off to the races.
Yeah, this kid is maybe a genius.
Yeah, very...
Definitely diabolical.
Yeah.
CEO of a company now.
Oh, for sure. Successful, unfortunately.
Very successful, unfortunately. He stopped screaming and sat politely on the couch. Honestly, I was kind of like, come on, you're making me look bad.
And he's like, yeah, that was the point.
He's like, I am. Luckily, my mom never said anything like, you really couldn't handle this well-behaved, quiet kid? She ordered us pizza and stayed over until the parents came home, and I got to overhear her quietly explain to them that I was maybe too young for babysitting other people's kids and that she was so sorry. I was so embarrassed I couldn't handle the situation on my own, but so thankful my mom came over and saved me. Still, not the best look, and I never tried babysitting again.
You know, I don't think it was really her fault. I think it was this wild child in the house.
Definitely not your fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, this kid is crazy. I wouldn't want to deal with this. I hated babysitting. I did it like a couple of times too, and I was just like, this isn't for me.
I babysitted some kids in like the neighborhood, but it just never was a. Also, you don't really find many guys that babysit. You know?
Yeah.
I feel like it's like mostly girls. When you're like, oh, teenage girls, like, oh, go to high school.
Well, that's
I'm
because
babysitting
of
kids.
sexism.
That is very true. That is very true. You should have more guys, maybe that would make guys more responsible, more mature, emotionally mature,
maternal, dealing with a monster child. Maybe this kid would have respected a male babysitter more.
That is possible. That is possible.
I don't love it, but I don't know. I think he actually just needed a professional. Yeah.
Someone with more experience probably, but also, that kid's he's been in therapy. That's the kind of.
He's a monster now and very successful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he now terrorizes his employees.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
That's it for Delve Deck Stories. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, you can like, subscribe, and check out some of our other videos. And if you have your own crazy story that you want to share, you can go to share.delvedeck.com and maybe we'll read it on an episode. I made a really embarrassing scene confronting my ex-boyfriend at a bar.